Yep, they're not commercial yet, but they're going to be a formidable competitor in this space, I believe. Right? If you go on their landing page, their web page, they're saying all the right things. Their commitment to quality, the people worldwide, the speed, cost, everything as a consumer you'd want to hear. It's definitely a good sales pitch that they're presenting to the public right now.
That was Tim Courtney, Vice President Sales and Strategy at Further Enterprise Solutions, talking about Project Kuiper, Amazon's upcoming satellite internet service. Hi, I'm Jeff Johnston, and welcome to the All Day Digital Podcast, where we talk to industry executives and thought leaders to get their perspective on a wide range of factors shaping the digital infrastructure market. This podcast is brought to you by CoBank's Knowledge Exchange Group. SpaceX's Starlink internet service has over 4 million subscribers since its launch in 2020. And in 2025, Amazon plans to enter the satellite internet market with its Project Kuiper service. We believe most Starlink customers are located in unserved areas, but over time, could these tech giants who are behind these satellite networks become a bigger threat to fixed-line broadband operators? I invited Tim onto the podcast to get his perspective on how satellite internet could evolve. Tim has extensive experience building wireless networks and developing strategies for a wide range of companies in the wireless ecosystem. He's my go-to guy for this kind of stuff. Please note that all of Tim's comments are just his personal opinions. So, without any further ado, pitter patter, let's hear what Tim has to say. Tim Courtney, it's great to have you back on the podcast again. How you been doing?
I'm doing well, Jeff. Good to be back. Looking forward to talking some tech with you today. So thanks for having me back.
What I wanted to spend time today talking about is the satellite industry. And to start us off, Tim, maybe you can just kind of give us an overview for those who may not be that aware of the industry and who the key players are, just because it relates to satellite home internet connectivity.
Yeah, as it relates to residential satellite connectivity, you got HughesNet, who's been there for a long time now. They're one of the pioneers, one of the leaders in the industry there. And obviously, the one that gets a lot of the news right now is Starlink. And Viasat is also in that picture, but Starlink is probably getting the bulk of the press right now with all their launches, with all their satellites going up in the air right now. So those are probably the three key names for North America, I would say, or the US as it relates to commercial residential service.
So what about Amazon, right? So they've got this thing called Project Kuiper, if I'm saying it correctly, making a lot of noise about offering internet service.
Yep, they're not commercial yet, but they're going to be a formidable competitor in this space, I believe. Right? If you go on their landing page, their web page, they're saying all the right things. Their commitment to quality, the people worldwide, the speed, cost, everything as a consumer you'd want to hear. It's definitely a good sales pitch that they're presenting to the public right now.
So if I think back, Tim, just over the years, there's been a lot of bankruptcies, haven't there, in the satellite industry? But then yet we're seeing some companies be very successful. Like if you look at Starlink, their growth has been pretty impressive. They launched in 2020 in October. Now they've got 4 million subscribers as of September of this year. So they seem to be doing well. But why, if you kind of look back to the bankruptcies of years ago to today, why do you think that it looks like this industry has matured and it's, looks like a legitimate industry and a legitimate service?
Well, I think most of those bankruptcies stem from more of the voice and maybe the low-speed data aspect of the initial satellite rollouts. With Globalstar, right, that was been through a bankruptcy as well. So all the companies that were trying to compete with the cellular networks, I think came up with a big headwind there. I think there's going to be a lot of investment in fixed broadband as relates to satellite. And there's the derivatives, right? There's the boating market that's not really fixed, the RV, so to speak, more nomadic. But from a fixed landline type connection to your home, I think we're at the early innings on that.
Let's spend a little bit of time, Tim, talking about some of the specific satellite operators and really more from a value proposition perspective. As I mentioned before, Starlink's having a lot of success growing their subscriber base by just simply providing internet service where there is none. Or Starlink, what can they do to build on this bundling value proposition? I mean, do you see Amazon with Project Kuiper bundling in Amazon Prime potentially? Can we expect to see those types of services bundled in with satellite internet service? I'm not sure what Starlink would be able to do. I mean, I guess they could bundle stuff in with if you own a Tesla. I don't know, but so how do you think about that?
Well, I think so. And Amazon's got a lot to bundle with, right? The Amazon Prime, their whole purchasing uh, shopping mall, so to speak. They've got their TV product, they've got their security product. They've got a lot of different products they could bundle in with their satellite offering when they do launch. A pure satellite provider could do a partnership with a mobile phone operator, just as AT&T has reached out to the rural communities that provide internet service. They can offer a wholesale or a bundle, let's say, of a mobile phone subscription. As we talk, Amazon has so many pieces on the table that they could mix and match. As you said, a Starlink, maybe a Tesla tie-in, so to speak, there. Maybe their quote unquote mobile phone partners that they're testing with could be part of that equation. Medium term, long term, that's going to be a necessary part of the value equation to keep customers sticky. Right now, you've got a couple satellite providers in these rural areas. It's could be again Amazon service. You might have three or four out there, let alone fixed wireless, right? It started rural, went suburban, and now might be going more rural. There's going to be a lot of tools in the toolbox to serve these customers.
When we think about wireless networks versus fixed line networks, we've got fixed line, whether it's HFC or fiber. I mean, these networks have a lot of, what I would call operating leverage. There's a lot of headroom in those networks to grow. But then when you look at fixed wireless, for example, there's kind of a limited amount of headroom unless you add additional capacity in the network to grow that subscriber base. And I would think that's probably the same thing with satellite networks, right? I mean, don't they have a limited amount of headroom to add additional customers? So I guess what I'm ultimately getting to is how much upside does a Starlink or a Project Kuiper have in terms of growing their subscriber base and therefore becoming a bigger threat to rural broadband fixed line operators? Does that kind of make sense?
Jeff, as you know, you and I, we've been doing this since 1G, before it was called 1G on the mobile phone side of things. So we're up to 5G already. We're talking about 6G. All these satellite providers, they're taking advantage of the best and brightest engineers and technology right now. The same scenario where we do cell splitting on the mobile network to add more capacity, we basically can do the same thing in the sky with satellite. Now, does it take longer to get satellites up in the air? Absolutely. Does it cost more money? Potentially, but if you amortize that over the number of subscribers they think they're going to get, they probably think it's a good business decision. As you've seen, when you launch a brand new satellite network with no subscribers, the speed test is phenomenal. As more people get on it, it slows down. No different than those 3 and 4G networks. Jeff, you and I were keeping an eye on. The 4G was flying speed wise, and it's going to slow down, did slow down as more people got on it. I don't think the technology or the capital is going to slow things down here. I don't think Amazon would be chasing this business if they thought there wasn't a good return to be made there.
I mean, do we get to a point where in a town near you, you could see a competitively priced service from Starlink, so comparable to what you're paying your local fiber provider, let's just say, and maybe that's bundled with an AT&T smartphone, and maybe that smartphone's got lots of satellite technology in it as well, and they could come to these markets with these bundles and disrupt these fixed line providers.
Well, you could, but if satellite was so successful in an area, in a neighborhood, in a city, then you'd see the local ISP would have to make the decision, do I bring in fiber, which is the ultimate technology solution, and or does one of the major wireless carriers market heavily their fixed wireless offering? So no different than what T-Mobile is doing with their fiber partnerships, I would say, right? T-Mobile was 100% wireless. Now they're wireless and some fiber. So, I would say just as the mobile started in urban and slowly crept out to rural, the satellite is rural trying to encroach onto suburbia, right? So you're going to have those rings around the major city where I think you're going to have the deepest competition between all the technologies, be it satellite, fixed wireless, and you probably don't have a physical cable there. Because if you did and the carrier wasn't greedy, they'd probably already be a subscriber on copper, coax, fiber, whatever the technology of that neighborhood is.
Just to be clear, from a technology perspective, you could see a scenario as, and I'll just go back to Starlink, for example, as that network continues to add subscribers, as they enjoy better economics as a result of that, as they invest more money into satellite internet technologies, antenna technologies, et cetera, the cost to them will go down. And then could it get to a point, again, looking back at what we've seen on the wireless side, could it be a fixed wireless like type disruptor, I guess, ultimately to fixed line broadband operators from a technology perspective? I mean, is there a path to that, I guess?
There would be a path, but if I was the incumbent ISP and I knew someone was charging $120 a month, right, I might come in at 100 or 110. If it was just data pipe to data pipe, right, the least path of resistance would just be lower the price.
No, makes total sense. Well, Tim, look, this has been great as always, providing a ton of insight. So certainly appreciate your time today. Hey, look, before we wrap it up, if you've got any final thoughts, comments, anything that you want to touch on here to close us out that we didn't talk about, the stage is yours.
No, just so we've got some big names coming into the satellite internet space. It's exciting times for rural areas across the globe to get onto the internet superhighway here. So there's going to be creative solutions to use that network for fixed internet connectivity. Some are going to use it for mobile as a derivative offering as well. So there's definitely exciting times in this mobile satellite convergence we're living through right now. I appreciate your time, Jeff.
Oh, listen, great having you on, Tim. Thanks for your time. Take care.
You got it.
A special thanks goes out to Tim for being on the podcast today. Low Earth orbiting satellite internet service from SpaceX is a great solution for the unserved. It's much faster and reliable than GEO satellite service. But its cost structure and network performance are no match for fiber networks, and unless Amazon gets very creative with a bundle and uses Project Kuiper as a kind of a loss leader to drive its Prime and AWS businesses, it's hard to see satellite internet being a disruptive technology. Hey, thanks for joining me today. And a special thanks goes out to my CoBank associates, Christina Pope and Tyler Heron, because without them, there wouldn't be an All Day Digital podcast. Watch out for our next episode.
The information provided in this podcast is not intended to be investment, tax, or legal advice and should not be relied upon by listeners for such purposes. The information contained in this podcast has been compiled from what CoBank regards as reliable sources. However, CoBank does not make any representation or warranty regarding the content and disclaims any responsibility for the information, materials, third-party opinions, and data included in this podcast. In no event will CoBank be liable for any decision made or actions taken by any person or persons relying on the information contained in this podcast.